Hook plus channel promotion with your channel name. Welcome, friends. Today's story is going to touch your heart deeply. Imagine how a small act of kindness from a little girl can completely change someone's life. Stay with me till the end. This story will leave you inspired. This is Kind Soul Stories, and I bring you emotional and motivational tales every day. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories for more heart-touching stories. 3. Scene 1. Expanded. 400 words in English. It was a bright afternoon in the city park, where the air smelled faintly of blooming flowers and the laughter of children echoed from every corner. Families had gathered, children were running around, and the sound of an ice cream vendor's bell chimed in the distance. Yet, in the midst of all this life and joy, one man sat quietly on a wooden bench, his expression heavy with exhaustion and worry. He was tall, dressed in an expensive suit, his polished shoes reflecting the sunlight. People passing by glanced at him, recognizing him as someone important, the CEO of a famous company. But today, the man's powerful aura seemed to have disappeared. His shoulders drooped, his eyes were fixed on the ground, and there was a loneliness in his presence that even strangers could sense. A little girl no older than 7 skipped across the park holding a fluffy teddy bear in her arms. She had innocent eyes that noticed things most adults ignored. As she passed by, she slowed down, observing the man on the bench. Unlike everyone else, she didn't see a CEO or a man in a suit. She simply saw someone who looked very sad. Clutching her teddy bear a little tighter, she hesitated for a moment. Then, with the courage only a child's pure heart could hold, she walked up to him. Standing before the tall, serious man, she held out her teddy and said in the softest, most sincere voice, "You can take my teddy. You look sad." The man lifted his gaze, startled by the gentle words. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. No one in years had spoken to him with such simplicity and kindness. His empire, his wealth, his success, none of it had given him the comfort that this little girl's words carried in that instant. Tears welled up in his eyes as he carefully took the teddy from her tiny hands. His lips trembled as if he wanted to say something, but no words came. The teddy, small and worn from years of being hugged, suddenly felt heavier than gold in his arms. It wasn't just a toy. It was a symbol of love, compassion, and the reminder that even the most powerful people in the world sometimes need a little kindness. And in that park, on that ordinary day, a little girl unknowingly changed the story of a CEO's life. The little girl smiled brightly, completely unaware of the storm of emotions that had awakened inside the CEO. She skipped away to chase a butterfly, leaving him alone with the teddy bear resting gently in his hands. For the first time in many years, the man's heart softened. He remembered his childhood, the days before the pressure of board meetings, shareholders, and government regulations had consumed his life. The CEO leaned back on the bench, clutching the teddy to his chest. In his mind, he replayed the words of the little girl. "You can take my teddy. You look sad." They echoed louder than the voices of his advisors, louder than the speeches he gave at business summits, and louder than the reports he read daily. Just then, 2 men in formal suits approached. They were his assistants, always rushing him about his schedule. "Sir, the government officials are waiting for you. There are urgent matters to discuss about the new project," one of them said firmly. Normally, the CEO would have stood up immediately, his face turning back into the mask of power and authority. But today, he remained seated. He looked at the teddy bear in his lap, then at the men. "Tell them I'll be late," he said quietly. The assistants exchanged shocked glances. No one had ever heard him speak like that. Government contracts and political meetings had always been his highest priority. But in this moment, something had shifted. As the assistants hesitated, the little girl returned, curious. "Did my teddy make you feel better?" she asked, tilting her head. The CEO smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. "More than you know," he replied. "You gave me something I had forgotten. Peace." The girl giggled, not fully understanding, and skipped back to her mother, who was sitting on a nearby bench watching the scene with quiet surprise. The CEO stood up slowly, the teddy still in his hands. His assistants waited nervously. But instead of heading toward the government office, he turned toward the playground where children were laughing freely. For the first time in decades, he wanted to just Breathe. He whispered to himself, power, wealth, politics. None of it matters if I've forgotten how to be human. And as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange, a powerful CEO found himself changed, not by policies or profits, but by the innocence of a little girl and her worn-out teddy bear. The next morning, the city buzzed with news. Everyone was expecting the CEO to sign a massive government deal, one that would bring him even more power and influence. Ministers, officials, and media had all gathered in the grand hall, cameras flashing, waiting for his arrival. But when the heavy doors opened, the man who entered didn't look like the same untouchable figure they were used to. His expensive suit was still perfect, his shoes polished, but in his hand, he carried something unusual, a small old teddy bear. Whispers filled the room. Is that a toy? Why is he holding that? What's going on? The government officials frowned, wondering if he had lost his mind. But the CEO walked with calm confidence, the teddy tucked firmly in his arm as if it were a symbol of something much greater. When he reached the podium, instead of beginning with profits, contracts, and numbers, he paused. His eyes scanned the room. Men of power. Reporters with pens ready, cameras blinking like restless eyes. Then in a steady voice he began, "Yesterday, in the park, a little girl offered me her teddy bear. She said, 'You look sad. Take this.' And in that simple act, I realized something. Despite all the wealth, the titles, and the authority, I had forgotten what it means to feel." The hall fell silent. No one had expected such words from a man known for his ruthless business sense. He continued, his tone firm yet emotional. "We sit here and talk about policies, profits, and power. But what about humanity? What about the children who go to sleep hungry? What about the families who struggle while we sit in comfort?" The officials shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The media leaned forward eagerly. "From today," the CEO declared, raising the teddy in his hand, "I choose a different path. My company will no longer chase deals that hurt the people we claim to serve. Instead, we will invest in schools, hospitals, and shelters. True power is not in controlling others. It's in helping them live better." Gasps filled the room. Some clapped hesitantly. Others were stunned into silence. The government ministers looked at each other, realizing this speech would shake the entire system. But the CEO didn't care about their reactions. He cared only about the little girl's words echoing in his heart. "You look sad." And for the first time in years, as he stepped away from the podium, he smiled. A real smile, born from the simple kindness of a child. A few days later, the park looked the same. Children running, families laughing, and the air filled with the joy of life. But for one little girl, it was just another ordinary day of playing with her friends. She didn't even notice when a black car stopped quietly near the entrance and a tall man stepped out, holding something carefully wrapped in his hands. It was the CEO, but today there was no suit, no assistants, no bodyguards. He wore a simple shirt and trousers, almost blending in like any other man. Yet, in his heart, he carried a decision that had changed not just his life, but the lives of thousands who would benefit from the projects he had promised. He spotted the little girl sitting on the grass, drawing circles in the dirt with a stick. Her old teddy bear, the one she had given him, was missing from her side. Of course, she had given it away, never expecting it back. The CEO walked slowly toward her. The girl looked up, her innocent eyes widening in recognition. "Hey, it's you," she said with a bright smile. "Did my teddy make you happy?" The man's eyes softened, and he knelt down to her level. "Yes," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "More than you'll ever know. That teddy reminded me of something very important, something I had forgotten for a long time." He gently placed the wrapped bundle in her hands. The girl unwrapped it carefully, and her eyes widened with wonder. Inside was a brand new teddy bear, soft, fluffy, and much bigger than the one she had given away. "This one is for you," the CEO said. "But I'll keep the one you gave me forever. It's my most precious gift." The little girl giggled, hugging the new teddy tightly. "Now we both have one," she said happily. The CEO laughed softly, a sound he hadn't heard from himself in years. Then he stood, looking at the sky for a moment. "Thank you," he whispered. "Because of you, I found my heart again." Her mother, who had been watching from a bench, stood and mouthed a simple word of gratitude. The man nodded back respectfully. then turned and walked away, not as the untouchable CEO everyone feared, but as a man who had been reminded of the power of kindness. As the car drove him away, the girl cuddled her new teddy, unaware that her small act of love had reshaped the destiny of one of the most powerful men in the city. And from that day onward, whenever people spoke of him, they no longer described just a CEO. They spoke of a man with a teddy bear, a man who learned that true strength comes from compassion. Welcome, friends. This was the final scene of our heart-touching story on Kind Soul Stories. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stay connected for more stories that inspire and heal the soul.